I still remember the day I met her, 5 years ago. It was a moment carved into my memory with such precision that sometimes I wonder if fate itself had orchestrated it. Back then, I was fresh out of college, full of plans and ambitions, my head crammed with equations and designs, already envisioning the engineering projects that would one day have my name attached to them. I was, in every possible sense, a man standing at the threshold of adulthood, about to step into the life I thought I had under control. And then she appeared. She walked into my life quietly, almost as if she belonged there all along. The way she looked at me the first time, I swear, it felt like the air thinned, like someone had cracked open the world and let something sacred slip through. I didn't just fall for her, I collapsed into her, completely and irreversibly. She completed me in ways I hadn't known I was incomplete. She brought warmth, tenderness, the soft touch of a woman into a life that had been defined by numbers and deadlines. She made the world less mechanical and more human. Within a year, I asked her to move in with me. The apartment felt larger, warmer, alive once her laughter filled it. Days stretched into nights, and nights into mornings where I would wake to find her hair sprawled across my chest, her breathing steady, her presence grounding me more than any job or paycheck ever could. Those years, 4 of them to be exact, were the happiest I had ever been. I thrived in my field. I was respected. Promotions came quicker than I expected, and the money poured in. It almost frightened me how effortlessly everything fell into place: a career, a beautiful home just off the coast of California, and a love that felt unshakable. We began whispering about children. At night, under the hum of the ocean waves crashing against the cliffs outside, she would rest her head on my chest and talk about names, about rooms we'd paint, about tiny clothes and lullabies. And I thought only of forever, of binding her to me with a promise no accident or cruel twist of fate could sever. I searched every jeweler in town, sparing no expense, because I knew what I was looking for wasn't just a ring. It was a piece of her soul reflected back at her, a silent vow wrapped in gold and diamond. When I finally found it, 3 carats, luminous, sparkling like captured starlight, I knew instantly it was hers. The stone gleamed the same way her eyes did when the sunset hit them just right. I bought it without hesitation. No second thoughts. No regrets. It was meant to be. I hid the ring for weeks, rehearsing in my mind the words I would say, the exact moment when I'd fall to one knee, the exact curve of her smile when she realized I was asking her to be mine forever. The plan was set: our 5th anniversary, a dinner at her favorite restaurant, a quiet walk under the coastal moonlight, and then the question that would change our lives. But life, cruel and unpredictable, had other plans. A week before our anniversary, the phone rang. It was late, nearly midnight. The number flashing on the screen was one I didn't recognize. When I answered, the voice on the other end was sterile, clinical, detached, in a way that didn't belong to the world I thought I was living in. It was the hospital. She'd been in an accident. She was in the ICU. The words dropped into my stomach like lead. I don't remember the drive there, only fragments. Red lights ignored, horns blaring behind me, the blur of street lamps rushing past as I begged whatever higher power might exist to let her live. When I burst into the hospital, lungs burning, heart pounding like a drum about to shatter, the nurse led me to her room. And that was when my entire reality cracked. She was lying there. My girl, my everything, her face swollen, bruised, bloodied, tubes slithered into her arms, her nose, machines keeping her alive, forcing her body to continue when it clearly wanted to stop. Her mother was there, collapsed in a chair, her sobs ripping the air apart. The doctors stood calmly, speaking in low voices, as if discussing statistics, not a human life. I fell to my knees beside her bed, clutching the cold metal railing, begging, screaming for God to spare her. I prayed like a madman, whispering promises I didn't even understand. Take me instead. Take everything I own, just not her. Please, not her. Days bled together. I refused to leave the hospital. I ate from vending machines, dozed in stiff chairs, my body deteriorating alongside my sanity. Nurses tried to coax me home, but I wouldn't move. Not while she lay there, so fragile, caught between worlds. Finally, after a week, exhaustion conquered me. My skin itched with sweat, my breath tasted sour, my eyes burned from sleeplessness. I told myself I'd go home for just a few hours, a shower, a change of clothes, maybe a moment of real sleep. Then I'd be back, refreshed, and ready to fight for her again. I drove home with the numbness of a ghost. The house was suffocatingly empty without her. I stumbled into the shower, let the water burn my skin, and collapsed onto the bed. Sleep swallowed me instantly. When I woke, morning sunlight spilled across the floor. For a brief moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare, that I'd simply roll over and find her beside me, warm and alive. But her side of the bed was cold, untouched. I forced myself up, brushed my teeth, dressed in the same shirt she always said made my eyes look darker. I grabbed my wallet, my keys, ready to return to her side. I swung open the front door and froze, because there, standing on the porch, was her. Her, not the broken, battered body I'd left in that sterile hospital bed, not the woman clinging desperately to machines, no. This was her as I remembered, flawless, radiant, whole. Her face unmarked, her skin unblemished, her eyes sparkled, her lips curved into that smile that had once undone me in seconds. I couldn't breathe. My knees nearly gave out. I staggered forward, tears springing hot and uncontrollable into my eyes. Oh God, thank you, thank you, thank you. I reached out to hold her, to anchor myself in the reality of her presence. But before I could touch her, she stepped back. Just one step, silent, deliberate. Her expression didn't falter, but something in it unsettled me. Too still, too calm. Without a word, she moved past me, gliding into the house with an elegance that seemed almost unnatural. Her feet barely made a sound on the hardwood. She went straight to the bedroom, slipped beneath the covers, and buried herself as though she'd never been gone. I stood in the doorway for what felt like an eternity, my heart racing, my mind refusing to form coherent thoughts. But eventually, relief outweighed confusion. She was home. She was safe. She was here. That was all that mattered. I flicked off the light, letting her rest. After what she'd endured, of course she was exhausted. Of course she didn't want to talk. Hours passed, 4, maybe 5. The house was silent except for the faint rhythm of the ocean outside. My nerves began to settle. I retrieved the little velvet box from its hiding place. The ring glistened even in the dim light, a promise waiting to be spoken. I thought, why wait? I'd nearly lost her once. I couldn't risk waiting again. So I walked quietly to the bedroom, heart hammering with anticipation and fear. She lay there still, curled under the blankets, unmoving. Sweetheart, I whispered, my voice trembling. No response. I stepped closer, holding the box in my palm, rehearsing the words again in my head. But before I could reach out to her, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Her mother's name flashed across the screen. I sighed, stepping into the hallway to answer. Hello? Her mother's voice hit me like a sledgehammer. It was raw, broken, full of anguish. She's gone, she sobbed. She's gone, she's gone, she's gone. For a moment, I didn't understand. My ears rejected the words. What? No, no, she's here. She came home. She's in bed right now. But the sound of her mother's grief only grew louder, more frantic, more unbearable. Donavin, she loved you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The line went dead. I stood frozen, the phone slipping in my damp palm, my mind a whirlwind of denial. I turned slowly, the bedroom door looming at the end of the hallway. My legs felt like lead as I forced them to move. I pushed the door open, my voice trembling. Sweetie, didn't you tell your mother? But the words died in my throat, because the bed that had cradled her form only minutes ago was now perfectly flat, the blankets smooth, the pillow undisturbed, empty. I didn't move at first. I stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the bed. The sheets were perfectly flat, untouched. The space where she'd once been lay in eerie stillness. The absence of her felt like a weight pressing on my chest. The room was too quiet, too empty. I checked the bathroom, the closet, everything in its place. But something was wrong. Something didn't feel right. In the hallway, a strange dampness clung to the floorboards. A dark stain was seeping into the wood, the shape of footprints, like she had walked through the house, leaving behind traces of something I couldn't quite explain. A faint, briny scent lingered in the air, as though the sea had somehow found its way inside. I was losing my mind. She was here. I saw her. I held her. I kissed her. But when I went back to the living room, the photograph that had been on the mantelpiece caught my attention. It was a photo of us at the beach, her face glowing in the golden light of the sunset. Her eyes, those weren't the same eyes I remembered. They were wide, unnaturally so, as if someone or something had been watching us from behind the lens, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone in the picture anymore. I blinked, and the world shifted slightly. I had to go to the hospital. I had to get answers. The confusion swirling in my head grew heavier with every second. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my keys, my phone, and rushed out the door. I drove to the hospital in a daze, my heart racing as if I were being chased by something I couldn't see. But when I arrived, the ICU room where I had seen her just a few days ago was completely empty. The doctors looked at me like I was a stranger, and the nurse who had taken care of her had no memory of who I was. Her body was transferred to the morgue, she said, as though it was a matter of routine. She passed away, but I'm afraid I don't have any more details. I tried to stay calm, but the world felt like it was crumbling beneath my feet. What do you mean, transferred? I demanded. Where is she? I need to see her. Please. But no one had answers. The morgue records were strangely incomplete. I asked for details, but the staff grew evasive, almost uncomfortable. My frustration turned into panic and then into something else. Something that whispered to me that I was not just losing her again. I was losing my grip on reality. I drove back home, barely able to concentrate on the road, my vision blurred by the steady thrum of fear. When I pulled into the driveway, the house loomed in front of me like a dark, empty shell. The ocean's waves crashed in the distance, as if mocking the quiet that filled my chest. Inside, I couldn't breathe. The house had always felt like home, warm and full of her presence. But now, it felt hollow. I walked through every room, searching for something, anything that would make sense of what was happening. The kitchen was empty. The living room, the same. I stepped into the den and froze. There was a photograph on the mantel that shouldn't have been there. I didn't remember it. We were standing together on the cliff, just as we had done many times. But her expression was different. Her eyes were wide and unblinking, staring directly at the camera. The smile on her face felt wrong, too forced, too perfect. And then from behind me came a voice, soft, almost a whisper. Ask me. I spun around. There she was, standing in the doorway. Her hair was the same, long, dark, and cascading in waves. Her face was flawless, unmarked by the accident, but her eyes were empty, too calm. There was something unnatural about her. Sweetheart? I whispered, my voice trembling. Is this real? She smiled, but it wasn't the smile I remembered. It was colder, more distant. I'm here, Donavin, she said, stepping closer. I never left. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. This isn't possible. The room spun, and the walls seemed to close in on me. I wanted to run, I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I was rooted to the spot, my eyes locked onto hers. You can't be here, I stammered. You were in the hospital, you died. Her smile never faltered. I died, but I'm here now. You brought me back, don't you see? No, I whispered, shaking my head. This isn't real. You're not real. Her eyes darkened, the calm in her expression fading into something deeper, more unsettling. You wanted me back. You never stopped wanting me. We were always meant to be together, Donavin. Forever. She took another step forward, her presence overwhelming. Ask me, and we can stop this. Ask me, and everything will be as it should. I felt the ring in my pocket, the cold metal pressing against my leg. I pulled it out, my fingers trembling. The diamonds sparkled in the dim light of the room. Ask me, she repeated softly, the words like a command. I could feel the weight of the moment, the weight of my own indecision. The ring. The promise. The fear. I stared at her, and for a moment I wanted to believe. I wanted to ask her. I wanted to fall to my knees and make the promise that had been waiting for me all this time. But I couldn't. My mouth went dry. I can't. Her smile faded into something darker, colder. She stepped back, and the room seemed to shift with her movement. You can't, she whispered, her voice low. You never could. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. I felt like I was drowning, suffocating under the weight of her presence, under the weight of my own fear. She took a step toward me, her hand reaching out, and I flinched away. Please, I begged, my voice cracking. I don't know what's happening. I just want you back. She laughed softly, but the sound was hollow. You have me. You've always had me. I stumbled backward, my mind racing. This isn't real. This can't be real. Suddenly, she was gone. Just like that. 1 second, she was standing in front of me, and the next, she had vanished, leaving me alone in the room, gasping for air. The room was empty again, but it felt wrong. The silence was heavier than it should have been. I stood there for what felt like hours, my body still shaking. I didn't know what was happening or if any of this was real. The house was too quiet, the shadows too long. I moved slowly, like I was walking through a dream. Then I found the ring. It was on the bed, not in the box, just the ring, sitting there, glinting in the dim light. I reached out for it, my hand trembling as I picked it up. It felt cold, too cold, almost like it had been waiting for me, waiting for this moment. I could feel her presence again, pressing in on me. Ask me, she whispered in my ear. The wind howled outside. I closed my eyes, clutched the ring tightly, and thought of the promise I had made, but something inside me twisted. This isn't the life I wanted. This isn't real. The ring burned in my hand as if it had been waiting for me to make the choice. I walked out of the room, the house still holding its breath, and I knew whatever I had just experienced, whatever I had just seen, wasn't over. She was here. She was never leaving, and I was going to have to live with that.